according to Islam, I don't need to be fair. It's already been predetermined that I was going to be stubborn.
There seems to be a gross misunderstanding of predetermination or predestination from your part. Doesn't God know that you are just going to speak now with the questions that you have at this very minute? Of course he knows. Does that mean God determined those questions for you on your behalf?
Yeah, go ahead, Brother One Love.
Bob Marley here?
Hi. No, I'm not Bob Marley. Just a question for you. If there is no compulsion in Islam, can you explain Quran 9:29? Surah 9, verse 29.
Are you referring to the context of war? Do you know the context of Surah 9:29?
Yeah, it's fighting people who don't believe in Allah.
Yeah, but do you know the context of that?
I think you alluded to it.
Okay, so the question is, in the context of war, is there compulsion or not? Is that your question?
My question is what I had just said. If there is no compulsion in Islam, then can you explain Surah 9, verse 29?
Okay, read the surah for us. Read the passage.
Sure, it says, fight those who do not believe in Allah.
Okay. So this is in the context of war, yes? Now this is, I think you should go back to Surah 9, verse number 1. The context is there. Can you read verse number 1, please?
Okay, so the context matters.
Of course it does.
Okay, so why don't you guys apply that logic to Christianity?
When did we do that?
I mean, it's quite surprising that you say that, because in fact, all our discussion centers around context. I mean, have you watched any of our Speakers Corner videos or Sheikh Uthman's videos?
Yeah, like I know on one of, like Mansur, on one of your speakers, in one of those videos for Speakers Corner, you say that.
We lost you there. Say it again, please. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have watched your Speakers Corner's video, and one of the things that you say, Mansur, is that the Quran has been preserved ayah by ayah, dot per dot, letter for letter. Do you still agree to what you've said in the past?
Okay, interesting that you say so. So now you're talking about, I mean, I can answer that question easily. Of course, Quran is preserved. Every Muslims believe in that. Just because few critics here and there bring along this question doesn't mean that, you know, somehow the Quran is no longer preserved. But I want to bring you back again. I mean, you need to be really discussing the topic. First, you come along asking about how do you reconcile this when Quranic verse seems to command you to fight or kill when there's no compulsion in religion. Now, when this is answered, you've now turned to a totally different question, which is totally unrelated to your first question or even to this topic. Is the Quran preserved or not?
Perfectly preserved.
What I would like to ask you is this.
Sure.
Do you know what topic we're discussing today with Sheikh Uthman?
I think the topic of the video was Mansur and Hashim host a surprise guest.
Yeah, on what?
I don't know. I actually just tuned in.
Right. Okay. So the topic we were discussing, obviously, we probably have, you know, tuned in a bit later, is concept of salvation in Islam and Christianity. You said you're a Christian. Is it okay that we ask you a question about salvation? Or you can ask us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you believe God can forgive?
Yes.
Without any payments. Without any payments. Because forgiveness is actually not accepting any payments. That's what forgiveness is. So do you believe in forgiveness without payments?
That would be grace. We would define that as grace as a Christian.
And how would you define forgiveness?
Well, forgiving somebody would be to accept them for who they are and the mistakes that they've made.
So let me just ask that, just a linguistic issue here. Let's say Hashim owes me 15 pounds, right? And
Okay.
I tell him, I forgive your 15 pounds. I forgive it. That debt is forgiven. Would I then
Yes.
take 15 pounds from Mansur, or would I just be like, it's forgiven?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
All right, let me try simpler English. Hashim owes me $15. All right, you got me so far?
Yeah.
What would it be to forgive that debt?
If Hashim was to forgive you.
Okay, well, he owes me, so I would forgive him, meaning I'm not going to take $15 from him, right?
Sure.
If I take the 15 from Mansur, the other guy here, if I take 15 from him, that's not forgiveness, right? Because then I'm taking $15 just from the wrong person.
Okay. Can you just make your
pretty
point?
clear? That's the point. That's not forgiveness. God, if he's going to kill somebody else in the place and get blood, that's not forgiveness, right?
Okay, so how does this relate to the topic?
The topic is about salvation in Islam versus Christianity. So, how salvation works in Christianity is that I'll give you one passage from the Bible. It's in Hebrews chapter 9, verse number 22. It says very clearly, there is no forgiveness without the shedding of blood. In Islam, there is no requirement for shedding of any blood, either an animal or a human. Allah is more than capable with His mercy and His justice and His grace and His wisdom and love to forgive whom He likes, yes,
Well,
and to
what
punish
does
whom He likes.
Allah have to forgive for if from my understanding, that because of that surah where, or is it the hadith, I can't remember, where Adam and Moses get into an argument and
And
We can't hear you. Are you still there, One Love?
hello?
We can't. Yeah, you have to repeat what you said. We didn't hear
Oh,
anything.
sorry. Well, my understanding from, I can't remember if it was from Quran or hadith,
Not
where
Quran. It's
Moses
Hadith.
gets into an argument with Adam, and Adam says to Moses, well, how could you blame me when Allah has predetermined that I was going to sin 40 years prior? So where is the forgiveness there? Why would Allah forgive Adam for something he predetermined?
Okay, we'll let Sheikh Uthman answer your question.
Hey, so One Love, first thing, very simply, as I explained already, if you're watching the earlier part of the show, people are judged for their decisions, but we don't go back and blame people, right? Meaning, let's say, for example, you are driving and you're going past the speed limit and you hit somebody. Now, because you are going past the speed limit, you're held accountable for that. But in Islam, what we don't do is then 10 years later be like, why did you do that? Why did you go past the speed limit? It happened, that was done. But you are held accountable for it. So the discussion between Musa alayhi salam and Adam alayhi salam was not whether Adam alayhi salam made an incorrect decision or not, or whether he was judged or forgiven or not. The issue was that Adam alayhi salam was saying, what happened, that was written to happen. We're not gonna. You can't blame me
Well,
for it now.
Didn't Moses say to Adam, how could you have forsaken us by committing the original sin?
The hadith is where there was. I mean, it's a long hadith. I'm not going to go into the depth of the whole hadith.
Which
Point
also
being,
doesn't really make any sense, because I mean, wasn't Eve the one? But it doesn't say that Eve was the
Eve, the
one
one that
to pick the apple in the Quran. It doesn't distinguish between the two.
no,
it doesn't.
It also doesn't say the names of Cain and Abel, the children of Adam and
Well,
Eve.
you're mixing too many things. I think let's stick to
Well,
one.
there's a few issues
We
here.
can't hear you, Sheikh Uthman. We can't hear you.
Sheikh Uthman, we can't hear you. No.
Can you speak at the same time so we can
Yeah.
follow your voice?
No, we can't hear you. Okay. So one love, I think, instead of answering my question, I think you deflected it to the hadith. And the hadith is nothing to do with the original sin,
Well,
even
it
though
does, because you're talking about forgiveness. So how can Allah forgive something that He's already predetermined?
if you look at the end of the hadith, what does the end of the hadith says? It says Adam had won better over Musa. That means his response was better than that of Musa. Moses assumed that the fault of the fault of this sin and everything, yes, it's like that of of Adam. But
Yes.
Adam, this was already decreed. So how can you blame me for something that I had no decision in? Yes. So now
Exactly.
look, the point that I was making was quite different. Yes. What I was asking you is that how can someone else substitute to be punished for the sin of another? So, like the analogy that Sheikh Uthman explained to you, if person A owes person B money, yes, then
Yep.
person B is the one who can forgive without asking for any payment from person A or
Sure.
even a person C. That is called forgiveness, where he doesn't demand anything in return. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I think your
Yeah.
understanding of forgiveness seems to be some sort of I don't know. It doesn't mean what the linguistic meaning of forgiveness is, where you
No,
do not.
my question was because it's Christianity versus Islam. So my question is, how can Allah forgive when He's predetermined what Muslims are going to do?
No. What you need to do is first you need to answer from Christianity what your position is. Can someone who did not commit a sin be punished for someone who did commit a sin? Let's answer that from your perspective first before we move to Islam.
Well, I'm sorry, but I came on here to ask a question.
No, but
Not
your question was 929, and we answered that already. Now it's only fair you answer our question.
right, but according to Islam, I don't need to be fair. It's already been predetermined that I was going to be stubborn.
Then you
Okay.
will
Just to clarify this, you
we
see,
still can't hear you.
there seems to be a gross misunderstanding of predetermination
Yeah.
or predestination from your part. I mean, doesn't God know that you are just going to speak now with the questions that you have at this very minute? Of course He knows. Does that mean God determined those questions for you on your behalf?
The way that God understands all time and all choices is God's will. It's not up to me.
No, I asked you a specific question. Maybe it's not clear. So, did God know the questions that you are going to ask now in this live stream?
Sure.
Okay. Did
Sure.
He predetermine those questions on your behalf?
Not according to my belief.
Neither
My
according to our
understanding.
belief as well. So why are you imposing a belief that you don't hold on our belief which is not clearly something that we hold either?
Well, no, that's what it says in the verse. I'm just asking what it says in the
It's
verse.
not a verse, so this is again a misunderstanding of the hadith. So
It's the
perhaps
hadith, sorry.
so you can reflect on the hadith and look at the commentaries and so on. So you've not only misunderstood the hadith, and based on that you're actually formulated the whole belief system that Muslims don't hold in the first place. Anyway, one love, I think we have
Okay.
several questions from you. We have other guests waiting, so thank you for your questions, and we move on to our next guest.